things are going to get lost in translation, and the way it's going to be communicated on the street, on the ground level, is that, oh, the Supreme Court cannot tolerate anybody criticizing them, so they have now gotten a JIT to go and have a witch hunt against people. So you are using this JIT to draw a wedge between the media and the Supreme Court by issuing notices to 47 journalists and by issuing notices to civil society members or a candidate like me or social media users. You're drawing a wedge between the people and the Supreme Court. Now, whenever the people or the media have a wedge with a civilian institution and the civilian institutions end up losing credibility, it only and only ultimately benefits the establishment.
So now let's come to the elections. Let's suppose Jibran Nasir wins the election and you're elected by your constituents.
Aren't you optimistic?
Hello and welcome to 20 Minutes. I'm Nadia Naqi with you. Today we have with us one of the candidates contesting elections on the 8th of Feb from Karachi, from PS 110, that's PS 110. You all know him, other than, of course, him being one of the candidates for the upcoming elections. Jibran Nasir, a famous lawyer, a civil rights activist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
Jibran,
so much.
how's the campaign going? Is it like really full-fledged campaign regarding your campaign, and overall when you discuss the electioneering happening in the country and at least in Karachi?
So when you talk about a full-fledged campaign, we're talking about not just social and digital media, we're talking about a series of corner meetings, we're talking about rallies, we're talking about a door-to-door canvassing campaign, we're talking about a series of meet the candidate and a panel discussion of candidates debating and all of that. And my constituency, PS 110, which involves all of Defence and Clifton, Bath Island and adjoining areas, is known to be a vibrant community when it comes to elections. We have seen in the past a lot of meet the candidates and panel discussion of candidates being happening either in person or online. And unfortunately, these days, we do not see that same kind of fervor, that same kind of belief that elections are happening. And even if they do, whether it's the will of the people which is going to be respected, or whether decisions have been made already and this is only happening as an exercise. Just to give a formal legal cover to whatever decisions have already been made vis-a-vis the future of Pakistan, vis-a-vis who's going to be the Prime Minister or the respective Chief Minister of a province. And it is very clear that the military has already made up its mind who they do not want to see in the corridors of power, who they do not want to see in the assembly, and that is the PTI. So because of that, and then when free flow of information is also being curbed by continuous and repeated shutdowns of the internet or blocking access to the social media, which also raises apprehensions and creates further uncertainty, it is a bit hard to get the voter to believe, A, that the elections are happening, B, it is happening for you, and C, it is your vote which is going to decide the fate of Pakistan. And I believe those who are sincerely invested in the democratic project and democratic aspirations vis-a-vis Pakistan are more focused on organizing and motivating voters and less focused on just ensuring that from this area or that area we'll be able to manage enough numbers to declare ourselves winners.
So Jibran, you are like, that's quite a serious allegation. We do know that the military has always been involved, or the establishment has always been involved for, pre-poll management or the election management. But you also recall General Bajwa saying that they are going to be apolitical and the institution has decided. Do you still believe, and can you really support this allegation of yours that the military has really decided who's going to be in the power corridor?
I think when they say they're going to be apolitical, they mean, I mean, if it's a word, they're going to be a-democratic. They're going to be apathetic to our democratic aspirations. See, it's a very simple thing. Democracy means let's hear everybody. And military order means everybody should listen. So it's about, people listening or hearing the people. That's the basic difference. And I don't believe that the military, by its training, believes in the fact that we should have a government by the will of the people. We should have a policy by the will of the people. We should have a parliament which is run and represents the aspirations of the people. And that, forget about General Bajwa, the incumbent right now, Mr. General Asim Munir, deemed it fit to publicly say that just because somebody has been elected for 5 years does not mean that they have a license to do whatever they want. So hence there is no assurance of tenure Well, I have to say to that just because somebody has been appointed a general for 3 years does not mean that they should be allowed to complete a tenure if they are falling short of whatever oath they may have taken under the Constitution. I believe in equal power under the Constitution rests under, but the only power to decide the fate of the army chief rests with the president and the prime minister and the cabinet. It's not the other way around. So, but they have the audacity to say such things because they know that they are in power. So it's not audacious for them, even though on paper it may look so. For them, it's a new normal. And unfortunately, this whole concept of the hybrid or perpetuating military interventions in a democratic setup or allowing encroachment of military institutions into civilian space was done so during the PTI era in an unprecedented manner, when this one-page policy or a hybrid regime policy was being mainstreamed and it was being told that this is the new normal for Pakistan. So this project has only been taken forward. It's just that PTI is not needed for it anymore, but the same project is being taken forward.
What do you think? Is there going to be any sort of political stability after the 8th Feb of the elections?
I don't think they're looking for political stability. I think what they're looking for vis-a-vis external factors, if we talk about the IMF, they're looking for consistency of values, which means that the only hurdle for PMLN is Ishaq Dar. If they produce anybody amongst their ranks who is as compliant as Shamshad Akhtar, IMF will be very happy. I believe People's Party poses a challenge because People's Party is more inclined towards public-private partnership as opposed to just privatization of entities. So, that brings in certain roadblocks into whatever IMF expects from us. So that's why, as far as that consistency thing is concerned, the interim setup serves that best. Noon League is supposed to serve that second best, and that order is there, and that's the economic plan. As far as our freedoms are concerned, as far as human rights is concerned, as far as rule of law is concerned, I don't think any project or any dreams are being presented to us. We are being told that we are going to be there in the G20, I believe by 2027. Very surprisingly, that the army chief has enough certainty to say that, but none of the people who are campaigning to be the Prime Minister of Pakistan can talk about 2027. I don't think that they know that will they even survive that long or not. So even who comes into power, though elected for 5 years, only makes plans for 3 years, or depending whenever that stage of retirement extension of the army chief comes around during that tenure.
Jibran, when you say, who would be like Shamshad Akhtar complying with the IMF, but you do realize that IMF is our need, and IMF doesn't impose themselves on us. It's us, as in Pakistan's economy, that is in shambles and cannot sustain itself, and therefore we do need that external funding. So whoever is going to be there will require, whoever becomes the finance minister, and we do have to go in that extended fund facility program, will have to comply.
No, I'm not saying that one should not comply, and I'm not saying that one should not honor the commitments at the IMF, and I'm not saying that one should have this kind of stance which Imran Khan Saab had, which was a completely emotional one, that I would rather commit suicide as opposed to going to the IMF. I'm talking about compliance is one thing, but what's our 10-year plan? Ukraine right now being heavily bombed by Russia. I think they are receiving 15,000 to 10 to 15,000 shells every day being bombed in Kyiv. They've made an iron dome around Kyiv now to save the cabinet from being bombed. And even they are going through the biggest privatization process in Europe, because pre-war, Russia was said to be the most corrupt country in Europe. Ukraine, having adopted that entire Russian model, was said to be the second most corrupt country, with over 3,000 to 4,000 entities being state-run entities. And now they are presenting a 10-year plan for Ukraine. We not being bombed, we not in a state of war, don't have any plan. Our biggest crisis is that even when we go to our friends, our ally countries, and we say that, we want $1 billion funding or $500 million funding, and even if they agree, we unfortunately are so ill prepared that we don't even have projects to present to them, that where would this money be used. So what I talked about in terms of compliance was talking about that we have seen, compared to 2018 in the last year, that be it the EU, be it the State Department, or be it the IMF, democracy per se has not been on their agenda when it comes to Pakistan. They have not been taking notice of what's been happening, especially in the past 6 months, be it the delay of elections, be it the process in which the elections are being conducted, be it the suppression of freedoms, be it the internet shutdown, because we are not featuring in their agenda right now. And a very easy way to access that is the portfolio the US State Department has for Pakistan in terms of its government spending in Pakistan. I don't think it's more than $300 or $400 million. So for them, the only thing right now which matters more than democracy is consistency of this policy vis-a-vis the IMF. So in that So to give that perspective, because external pressure has always been a pressure on our establishment to deliver, and that is not there anymore in as far as conducting elections and free and fair elections are concerned.
Because you're a lawyer, I guess you're going to be in a better position to explain to all our viewers the imposition of Section 144 in Islamabad, in Punjab, in Peshawar. I mean, is that allowed during electioneering? And does one, like you are contesting, do you really have to take permission from the administration during the elections that you are going to take out a rally or hold some sort of, a convention?
So technically, when you're doing your corner meetings and when you're doing your rallies, you are supposed to be connected to the DC office or the AC office for purpose of administration, that they may want to send a police mobile or a ranger mobile for security purposes, or they should know that a political gathering is happening. So, and that has been done seamlessly in 2018. And that is more of a formality. You have to take all the departments on board. But when you impose 144 and you say that there's a situation vis-a-vis security, then that is definitely a different scenario altogether, and for you to get permission would be made relatively harder, especially if you belong to the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. I don't think anybody would bother if you have taken permission or not if you're from Pakistan People's Party or Noon League. I'll give you an example. Around a week ago, the Sindh High Court gave an order that public polls and public property should not be used for posting advertisements of political figures or for political campaigning. Now, people exploit public property, they abuse public property by pasting their banners and posters during election time any way they want. I, as a responsible citizen, approached the Clifton Cantonment Board, which is a big land development authority in my area and a land holding authority in my constituency, that I want to pay the challan. I want to officially rent these polls so that I could place my banners. They refused to accept that application, stating that there's a High Court order, we're not allowed to do it, so we can't rent the polls out to you. And then I then showed to them the flags on which People's Party's flags are hoisted, the polls on which the People's Party or the MKM flags are hoisted, or the various landmarks on which the banners have been put up, and they just looked the other way. We had a meeting with the RO, the returning officer of PS 1110 and NA 241, regarding the code of conduct. And I told them these violations of the code of conduct, and they simply said that, oh, this meeting is only for communicating the code of conduct, not for raising the violations of the code of conduct. This is a scenario in which elections are happening. And more than that, when you have made it physically impossible for a political party to mobilize and organize themselves and their voters on ground, then of course they're looking to the digital space, the internet space, to connect to their voters. And then you're also shutting down the internet every time and again. I believe the insaf.pk, official website of PTI, has been down for more than 7 days now.
Jibran, you're also one of the people whom the FIA has sent a notice regarding an alleged smear campaign against the superior judiciary. Would you like to throw some light on that?
Well, how capable the FIA is can be determined by the fact that they cannot even update their records, and they're sending in a letter to an address where I haven't lived for 12 years. So even though in government records my address has been updated. So that just goes to show the kind of people who are investigating this case. B, I believe, and one has 2 points I'm going to raise over here. This inquiry, A, is not about the honor and the prestige of the Supreme Court, or trying to hit out or capture any malicious campaign which is trying to create distrust vis-a-vis the Supreme Court. This order, this JIT and this entire campaign is only for people to not talk about certain decisions of the Supreme Court, which decisions serve the establishment of the day and the policies of the day. Say, for example, the symbols case. I'm not saying that the Supreme Court passed that decision because a journal asked them to do so, but that decision currently serves the establishment's purpose and needs, and for that reason alone, they do not want that being critically discussed and analyzed. It's the second thing. This entire
which is wrong because you can discuss once the justice has, once the decision has been there, we're allowed
public record, you can. Yeah. The second thing is more important. They formed this JIT, they are issuing notices, they're conducting inquiry, they're planning a crackdown, they're doing all of this in the name of the Supreme Court, but it's being done by the government. So this thing is actually the way it's going to trickle down, and things are going to get lost in translation, and the way it's going to be communicated on the street, on the ground level, is that, oh, the Supreme Court cannot tolerate anybody criticizing them, so they have now gotten a JIT to go and have a witch hunt against people. So you are using this JIT to draw a wedge between the media and the Supreme Court by issuing notices to 47 journalists, and by issuing notices to civil society members or a candidate like me or social media users. You're drawing a wedge between the people and the Supreme Court. Now, whenever the people or the media have a wedge with a civilian institution, and the civilian institutions end up losing credibility, it only and only ultimately benefits the establishment, because they, though may not have, say, they may not be having or ranking higher in popularity polls, but in chaos, what they do offer is order. And order is what serves best when you have chaos. So if you have a demonized parliament, if you have a demonized executive, if you have a demonized judiciary, and if you have a demonized media, then in that chaos, order serves best. So automatically the odds favors the establishment.
All right. So now let's come to the elections. Let's suppose Jibran Nasir wins the election, and you're elected by your constituency.
Aren't you optimistic?
No, I would like to know. I would like more. What changes would you like to bring about? Because for everyone in Pakistan, anybody who sits in the parliament is supposed to take care of their streets, their lights, their sewage. I mean, a legislator is supposed to do the job of a local government or a councillor.
No, not necessarily. Now, for example, where I am in my constituency, the area is divided between the KMC, which has a mayor now. However, he was elected, but there is a mayor in Karachi now. And the Clifton Cantonment Board, which had their elections 2 years ago, and they have an 11-member elected body. Now, roadworks and sewerage and sanitation and water supply, we have departments for all of these. We have budgets for all of these. Primarily, an MPA is there for lawmaking and legislation making, but I also believe that MPA is there as a representative of the people, running behind all these authorities, running behind all these ministers to have those issues solved, as opposed to the people taking out from the busy schedule, especially in this inflation where people are supposed to be doing odd jobs, more than one jobs to make ends meet. And for that very purpose, in 2024, even though people, usually just relate me to somebody who talks about good things, raises the right kind of issues, I believe that raising the right kind of issues and or what I may call in Urdu bedari, ya shaur, ya agahi, is one aspect of politics. The second aspect of politics is service delivery. And for that, you need to be having, or the voters of the area need to be having round-the-clock accessibility to their MPA. The MPA should be aware of real-time issues so that he can give real-time representation to the voters, and there has to be a mechanism of self-accountability. So regrettably, I'm saying this. I'm not saying it with pride, because I expected a lot more people in Pakistan and political parties to realize this, that we need to move towards digitization of democracy. We need to move from between the MPA and between the common voter, the chain of different individuals, which is an archaic, which is an old fashion of connecting with your MPA, that every local colony or local mohalla or neighborhood has a representative, which is known as an active guy, because people, regardless of how active they are, they always carry their biases. You can never say that a person is representing the aspiration of each and every household. So to solve that, to address that problem, my manifesto, if I get elected, is Pakistan's first constituency-based town, where not just every voter, but every resident of the constituency gets to register a profile, and then whatever issues they may have, be it water, gas, roadworks, police, or incidents of violence or harassment, whether faced in the household or outside, they can communicate it to their MPA either by writing it, by taking a picture, by recording a video, or through an audio, depending on their own digital literacy. And then they are going to receive a timestamp receipt that the MPA has received your complaint, be it whatever hour of the day, and then our response time counter will start. So over a period of time, not only will I be having real-time complaints from my voters, so I know what is the pressing issue today, but I would also allow every single household, whether it's a housewife, whether it's a child, whether it's an elderly who can not move around, can communicate their issues to us. Not only will our team be working to address their issues actively there and now, but over a period of time, the census or the survey will produce a report of which public authority is the least effective when it comes to my constituency. You have hotspots, and not just that. You can conduct surveys. For example, we do not have surveys, constituency-based surveys, of what's the unemployment rate of Pakistan, constituency-wise. What's the health status of Pakistan? In my constituency, how many poor families suffer from diabetes, from cancer, from gastro-related problems? So if you have a constituency connected to the MP through apps, you can conduct public welfare surveys, so that you can get these figures, and then you can invite either government intervention or private charitable intervention for that specific purpose in that specific area, because I am dealing with 315,655 voters. That's a massive constituencies. We're talking about equivalency of 4 or 5 European cities. So to reach certain areas, such a large area, when apps are inherent part of our life now. For food delivery, for traveling, for dating, for marrying, for buying a house, for renting a house, for buying products, for selling products, for bills, for utilities, everything is based on app now. Why isn't our politics, why isn't our service delivery mechanism from a public representative coming? So our manifesto is Awam Ki app. We intend to launch a better version before the election so that the voter can also have a feel of it. It's not just a promise in the air, and functionalities will open if we get elected.
But, the kind of problems that people face, not even in your constituency, but in general, public at large, do you really think that, yes, you may get to know all sorts of problems, but getting them resolved is a huge task because a lot of systems are in place that do not function in Pakistan.
But the point is that how do you ensure that that problem has been raised at the right level by the right platform? Now, I do not believe that nothing works in Pakistan by simply writing a complaint. Things always work. But of course, there are certain areas where certain political vested interests or economic interests may not allow development to happen. Now, as an activist for the past 10 years, when I have not been elected, I have been either through media pressure, making the governments take certain steps, or through courts. Right now, currently, for the past 1.5 years, I'm pro bono representing all of DHA in the water tanker case, where we do not get water in our lines, though we are charged for it. And then on top of it, the cantonment board says, why don't you buy tankers from us and get double charged for the waters? Now, that opens a lot of room for corruption within the CBC as well. And it also boils down to the fact that, the have and have not, who can afford to pay for the line water as well as for the tankers as well. We've been doing that, and as a result of that, not only the KWSB has agreed to increase the supply of water to CBC, but CBC is now, for the first time, installing digital meters at the main intersections and junctions where they receive water so that they can prevent line losses. And now the whole program is being discussed on how to ensure that we get water in a line as opposed to tankers. So there are avenues. Media pressure is one avenue. Courts are of course one avenue, but when you are an MPA, you on the floor of the parliament also has FaceTime with the concerned minister, with the concerned authority. And when we talk about an app, if I can every 3 months or 4 months create a report of the performance of a public authority in my constituency, I think I would have proper evidence, real-time evidence to go to take it to the minister or to the media or to the courts. So I'm not saying that all problems are going to be solved through one way, but problems will be solved eventually as long as they are communicated, they are registered, and they are followed. And for that, the only transparent mechanism is an app. And see, the reason no other political party would like to introduce something like this is because this app will provide you a digital forensic audit of your performance. How many complaints received, how many processed, and how many resolved. So that will actually show whether you are performing to the best possible level or not. And that's where the self-accountability bit, that's where political parties shy away.
So you do realize, this is my last question because you're really running out of time. In fact, we're going over. There may be settlements in your own constituency where people may not be so literate to use this app in the proper manner. How would you make them? They are?
Oh, they are. So my first corner meeting was at a local church at Shah Rasool Colony, where you had the lowest rung in terms of income backgrounds, low income backgrounds. And all the work I may have done for our non-Muslim Pakistanis, be it vis-a-vis forced conversion, be it vis-a-vis child marriage, be it vis-a-vis blasphemy cases. The one thing which stuck with the youth was because all of them were on TikTok. All of them are watching Instagram reels. They're like, Jibran bhai, where is the app? Is it already on Play Store or not? So I know that I am not running on the outskirts of Karachi. I'm running in the heartland of posh Karachi. It's Clifton, Defence and Bath Island, and even the colonies. I mean, to buy a flat in one of these colonies, you're talking about 9 to 10 million. So even there, the people who are living are aspiring lower middle class aspiring people. So the digital literacy is there. The reason I came up with this manifesto was after studying the demographics of my constituency, after knowing that every single household here has an access to a mobile phone and to a data plan.
Okay, thank you so much. We wish you all the best for the 8th Feb general elections. Let's see if you can reach to the parliament and, make useful of the app that you've been talking about and in resolving the issues of your constituency.
Hopefully people will come out and vote for our symbol, which is mic. I forgot to say that in the 20 minutes. So my election symbol for PS1110 is mic.
All right. Take care. Goodbye.